Welcome to Dave's Cards and Sports Games. My name is Dave. And let's check out another set. This time, it's the 1986 Donruss set. Hello once again, everybody. I am Dave. Donruss would do this back in the day. You'd get about 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 stacks of cards. I think there's 55 cards in a stack. Let's look at stack 1. Yes. So you get 12 stacks of 55, and they give you a Hank Aaron puzzle with it as well, or a Hank Aaron card with it as well. And you also get 2 puzzles to help fill the box. They're Roberto Clemente puzzles. You get 2 versions of it. And this is what it looks like on the back. And that's what it looks like when it's done. But you get 2 puzzles. 21 card puzzles. You got to pull them apart. So 63 pieces. And this will be part 1 of the video. So we're just going to do part 1 right now. We'll do the first 300 cards. See what it's like. But I'm going to keep them in their stacks. This is the stack. This is how it looks. And this will be the first stack. Let's check them out. Donruss back in the day, until the pictures were okay, but everybody looks sunburned. Hubie Brooks, Dave Kingman. Look at George Brett, sunburned. Hall of Famer. Mike Marshall. Ricky Henderson, Hall of Famer. Oil Can Boyd. Lou Whitaker should be in the Hall. Nice bunt there. Robin Yount, Hall of Famer. He is sunburnt. Mike Boddicker. And then we get to all the rated rookies. Mike Woodard, John Havian. Bob Kipper had a good career. Todd Worrell had a good career. Rick Surhoff had a good career. Lance McCullers did. Juan Nieves did. Jose Canseco. This card here, me and a friend would travel from Isani, Minnesota, Cambridge, Minnesota, down to the Twin Cities, because in the sports card world, when the price guides came out, every card was listed, dime, 25 cents, $1. Jose Canseco's were $6 at the time. So we would go to every gas station that we could find in the northern Twin Cities and scour up the cards and buy the Donruss before they were sold out. Danny Tartabull, another good player. Paul O'Neill, great player. Marty Clary, don't remember him too much. Mark McLemore played a lot. Dave Shippenoff. Andres Galarraga, the big cat. He is in the Venezuelan Hall of Fame. Johnny Abrego. Ty Gainey. Jose Guzman. He was good. Corey Snyder hit the long ball. Sunburnt. Fred McGriff, Hall of Famer. Cal Daniels, he had a couple good home run seasons. And then in the 80s, they did Diamond King, a different player each year. Dwight Gooden. The Hawk Dawson. Tom Brunansky. Jerry Kuzman from Minnesota. Phil Bradley. Rick Mahler. Gary Ward. Johnny Ray. Oral Hershiser. Bob Boone. Willie Randolph. Tony Perez. Mike Davis. Harold Baines. Brett Butler. Brett Saberhagen. Bill Duran. Davey Lopes. Mike Boddicker. Cecil Cooper. Chili Davis. Tony Armas. George Bell. Willie E.T. McGee. He had the neck like E.T. Goose Gossage. And Kirk Gibson. That's stack 1 of 6 in video number 1 here at Dave's Cards and Sports Games. Hope you're enjoying my videos. I did email or personally Facebook the person that was supposed to win my drawing for his choice, and I emailed him again today and said, you have to let me know. If not, I'm just going to give it to the second person. So if you're number 2 on that list, you will get your choice. Joe Perry, Eric Davis, great player. They called him Eric the Red. Greg Gross, Dave Dravecki, Bob Nepper, Richard Dodson, Toby Hara. What is he doing with that bat? Gary Pettis, he was fast. Jim Wolford, Mike Gallego. Another one that Chris Berman would say is, Mike, let go of my Lego. Mike, let go of Gallego. Pat Sheridan, Brooke Jacoby, Bill Russell, Mike Pagliarulo, Bill Buckner. Unfortunately, that's the year he made the famous error at first base. That cost the Red Sox the World Series. Chris Pitaro, Danny Darwin, Ken Dixon, Mike Smithson, the tallest player in the game at that time. 6'8". And the Twins also had a player named Houston Jimenez who was like 5'4", and they had a picture of both those guys standing next to each other in a Twins program. It was pretty funny. Dave Steve, great pitcher. Edwin Nunez, Lee Smith, Hall of Famer, Mike Krukow, Cecilio Guante, Glenn Hubbard, and they would call him Old Mother Hubbard. Wayne Krenchicki, it looks like he's sunburned again once again. The color on a lot of these, everybody looks sunburned. Lamar Hoyt, great pitcher for the White Sox, and he was a all-star. And let's see how many saves he had. Correction, he was a starter. I apologize. Alzheimer's hits when you get old. 24 wins in 83. Great pitcher for the White Sox. Don't know what I was thinking about for the closer. He wasn't the closer. Ricky Horton, Ozzie Virgil, Denny Walling, Greg Walker, Wayne Tollison, Dick Schofield, Van Salah, Carney Lansford, sunburnt, Frank White, should be in the Hall, Pat Tabler, Mariano Duncan, Tony Armas, Ken Griffey Sr., Kirk Gibson, laying down a bunt, the power hitter. He was fast, so he could beat out if there's a Hall of Famer, Paul Molitor, looking a little sunburnt, Mike Young, Dan Spillner, Ron Robinson, John Butcher, Tony Fernandez, Mark Langston, he had many good years, Steve Trout, George Foster, Jim Gantner, David Green, Marvell Wynn, Tony Gwynn, Hall of Famer, and Kent Tekulve, one of my favorite closers when he played for Pittsburgh, and they got traded to the rival Phillies. 4 more stacks left in the first part of my video, 1986. And we are also going to show 2 more subsets in 86. They had the rookies. I also had the highlights. Can't wait to see what the highlights are. There we go. Bill Duran, Willie E.T. McGee, Brian Downing, Ray Burris, Rick Dempsey. He was a clown. Jack Morris from Minnesota, Hall of Famer. Jerry Royce had a good career. Ron Guidry had a good career. But Brett Butler, Alfredo Griffin, Rookie of the Year. Brett Saberhagen, great career. Pete O'Brien, Gary Ward. He was a home run hitter, played for the Twins many years. Mike Fitzgerald, Mike Davis, Danny Jackson, Tom Waddell, Mike Sosha, Willie Randolph, another great fielder, Bob Stanley with the wild hair, Chet Lemon, Dion and the Belmont James was his nickname by Chris Berman, Eddie Eat, Drink, and B. Murray, Andre the Hawk Dawson, Darryl Boston, Ron Romanek, Jerry Mumphrey, Tommy Herr, look how sunburned he looks, John Russell, Ron Oyster, another one looking sunburnt. Once again, all the cards of Donruss, many of the white males look sunburnt. Kevin McReynolds, Jeff Leonard, Benny DiStefano, Rick Mahler, Gary Matthews, Dwight Doc Gooden, great pitcher, Bob Kearney, Lloyd Mosby, Kirby Puckett, wearing the 1985 Twins jersey. That's the last year they wore those things. George Bell. Actually, they might have worn him in 86. 87, I think, was the year they went to the New Jerseys, and then they went to the World Series. George Bell. There's Kent Herbeck. 2 great Twins, 3 cards apart, both on the Twins Wall of Fame. Alvin Davis. Gary Carter, Hall of Famer. Ryan Sandberg, Hall of Famer. Dale Murphy should be in the Hall of Fame. Chili Davis, Tony Pena, great catcher. Steve Garvey should be in the Hall. Pete Rose should be in the Hall. Mike Schmidt is in the Hall. Jose Cruz had a good career. Ozzie Smith is in the Hall. Britt Burns, Doug DeCinces, and Odabe McDowell. That was a pretty good pack, a fun pack to open there. What I'm going to do is I think we're going to put up a little more than half of the packs. George Wright, Tim Wallach, good third baseman. Dave Collins. He had some speed. Darryl Motley, Julio Franco, Fernando Valenzuela. Looks like his eyes were always cross-eyed when he was throwing the ball. Dave Righetti, another great pitcher. Jim Rice, Hall of Famer. Dan Petrie. Bill Schroeder. Cal Ripken Jr., Hall of Famer. Jeff Reardon, great closer for the Twins. Ozzie Guillen won a World Series. Reardon did. Bobby Grich, great second baseman. Terry Poole. Terry Pendleton. John Denny. Dave Parker just made the Hall of Fame. Gary Templeton. Manny Trio. Steve Kemp. Steve Bedrosian. Ron Hey Say. Darryl Strawberry. Jim Beattie. Willie Upshaw. Frank Viola, great lefty for the Twins. Jesse Barfield. Tom Brunansky. Twins All-Star in 85. Phil Bradley. Keith Hernandez. Rick Sutcliffe. Bob Horner. Dan Gladden. Won 2 World Series with the Twins in 87 and 91. Johnny Wright. Goose Gossage, Hall of Famer. Mario Soto. Steve Carlton, Hall of Famer. There, I lost my video. We'll see if we get this works good now. We'll go back a few. Don't know when I broke up. So Vince Coleman, we were talking about. Harold Baines is in the Hall. Then we had Tim Raines in the Hall. Pedro Guerrero in the Hall. Mattingly should be. Clemens should be. Trammell is. Cooper had a great career. Storm Davis, Jack Clark, Keith Moreland, and Rick Rhoden. Ken Howell. Butch, love that kid Weiniger. He was good with the Twins. Rich Kedman, a good catcher for the Sox. Nelson Simmons. Bob Gibson, not the one you're thinking of. Sammy Stewart had wild hair. Looked like Larry David. Mickey Hatcher, he batted 300 one year. Yeah, 302. I mean, that's a great year. He was a clown. They got rid of him and picked up Blyleven again, and Blyleven turned into the clown. Clancy, Young, Dernier, Mark Davis, Larry McWilliams, Rafael Ramirez. He had one of the wildest cards and tops back in the day, about 82 maybe. I might have to find that one because it looks like he was losing a tooth. And he was like cross-eyed. Really a funny picture. Jay Tibbs, Mark Thurman, John Tudor, Jeff Stone, Nolan Ryan, Hall of Famer. Julio Cruz, Curtis Wilkerson, Donnie Moore, David Palmer. He was the president on 24. Maybe a different David Palmer. On his Concepcion, Andre Thornton, Thunder Thornton, David Powell, Dennis Powell. Dwight Evans should be in the Hall of Fame. Dave Winfield is in the Hall of Fame. Walt Terrell, Charlie Moore. Fred Lynn should be in the Hall of Fame. Floyd Bannister. Dave Concepcion, Tim Tuffle. At one point, he had the most, for the Twins, he had the most total bases in a game. There it is. Twins record by accumulating 13 bases with a 5-hit, 2-homer game against the Blue Jays. I remember listening to that game. Damaso Garcia, Mike Moore, Dennis Eckersley, Hall of Famer. Wally Backman, not in the Hall of Fame. Moose Haas, Jose Uribe, Jose De Leon, Eric Shaw, Shane Raleigh, Craig Reynolds, Joaquin Andahar, good pitcher. Bob Boone, good catcher. Raleigh Fingers, Hall of Famer. Love the stash. Lee Lacy, Willie Hernandez had some great years with the Tigers as their closer. Oral Hershiser had many wins, many shutout innings in a row. I wonder if it was before this or after this. 34 consecutive scoreless innings. 3 straight shutouts. That's pretty good. Ed Whitson, Joe Carter, nice power hitter. Jay Howell, Steve Bye-Bye Balboni, Tony Dunbar. We'll do 2 more stacks here. Joel Skinner, Urbano Lugo, David Smith, Tom Nieto, Juan Samuel, Eddie Milner, Carmelo Martinez, Bob Brenly. You're watching Dave from Dave's Cards and Sports Games opening up a 1986 Donruss set, showing off my set. And then I'll do another video, and then I'll open up and we'll do the rookies and also 86 highlights. Just trying to randomly throw different sets in the Leon Bull Durham, Rafael Santana, Dave Henderson. I like that big M hat. Bill Caudill, Mark the Chief Salas, Louis Leal, Gary Gaetti, really sunburnt. Once again, Donruss made pretty much all Caucasians sunburnt with a lot of red tint, Jim Presley. Hojo, Howard Johnson, Shawn Dunston, Rick Cerrone, Steve Gerrits, Sam Khalifa, Craig Lefferts, Gary Reedus, Von Hayes, Frank DePino, Ken Daly, Louis Salazar. What do you think of the 1986 set? This is part 1. Part 2 will be coming up shortly. There's Bert Happy Hooten, Bryn Smith. Hooten at this point in his career had won 150 games. Bryn Smith, Charlie Lebrand, Greg Brock, Dale Berra, Yogi Berra's son right there. Marty Barrett, Aurelio Lopez, Ted Simmons, Hall of Famer, Scott McGregor, Darrell Porter, Jody Davis, great catcher for the Cubs. That was Harry Carey's favorite player, I believe. Lee Mazzilli, Clydell Washington, Nick Osaski, Glenn Wilson, Andy Hawkins, Bill Daly, Scotty Fletcher, Don Slott, Rod Carew, Hall of Famer, Herman Winningham, Chris Cottarelli, Jim Sundberg, and Mel Hall. I will do one more stack, and then part 2 will come up. Rick Camp, Tom Browning, Tim Flannery, Danny Cox. Once again, you get 12 stacks of cards in a box, and they're all sealed up like this. And then you get a Hank Aaron Hall of Fame card in every pack as well. Rick Camp, Tom Browning, Tim Flannery, Danny Cox, Tim Corcoran, Glenn Davis had many good years with the Stros, Bob James, Dave Schmidt, Reggie Hall of Famer Jackson, Charlie Lee, Steve Henderson, Bud Black, Chris Bando, Rick Honeycutt, Wade Hall of Fame Boggs. Looking serious. Ron Hassey, Darrell Evans, Rick Manning, Nate Snell, Carlton Hall of Famer Fisk. With the Bo Sox, he was 27. With the White Sox, he was 72. Tom Hume, Ron Davis. See how bad he was in 85. 1-2 lost 6. I mean, you don't like it when you see your closer with more losses than wins every year in a row. Didn't have 49 saves with the Twins in 84. That had to lead the league. Ranked 5th in the saves in 84 with that many saves. All-Star in 81 with the Yankees. And then he became a Twin and became terrible. Jim Acker, Spike Owen. I think he was pretty short. That's why his name was Spike. Well, 5'10" ain't terrible. Ray Fontenot, John Christensen, Ernie Riles, Jim Gott, Don Robinson, Terry Kennedy. Let's see if there's any Hall of Famers left. Larry Anderson, Mark Bailey, Bob Forge, Juan Beniquez, Teddy Higuera. I liked watching him pitch. Larry Sheets, Barbero Garbe, Carlos Diaz, Don Baylor. He might make the Hall of Fame just from coaching. George Vukovic, Mickey Tettleton, Greg Pryor, Dave Rozema, Charlie Huff, Joe Hesketh, Donnie Hill, George Orta, Neil Heaton, Terry Woodfield, Dennis Rasmussen, Jackie Gutierrez, Lance Parrish, Ben Ogilvy, Floyd Honey Bear Rayford, and Bill Gullickson. That is the first half of the video. Once again, I would run to the Twin Cities and try to find this card right there. Try to find all the Jose Canseco's I could find, because every other card was worth like, the highest priced cards were like $1 or $2. He was worth $6 before he played a game. Great shape there. Jose Canseco rookie card. And that'll wrap up the first half of the video. Coming up in part 2 will be the last half of the set, plus the highlights and the rookies. Be sure to watch it here at Dave's Cards and Sports Games. Have a great rest of the day. Bye.